Happy New Year.
Happy 2019.
I know I'm a little late, but we haven't done this in like 2 weeks. So
Yeah, it's been weird.
Feels fresh and brand new, and there's a lot to talk about, whether you guys have questions about it or not. I'm sure some of you do, about the new site update, a new acoustic guitar made easy course, just playing in general, what you're doing for 2019.
I think it's fair to say there's probably some people that have goals for 2019, right?
I hope so. If not, today's the day, man. Carpe diem.
1 week late, but that's okay.
That's right. That's not too bad.
Yeah, so what we're going to do today is we're going to answer your questions.
Yep.
It's going to be fun. We're also going to maybe teach a little song.
Somebody emailed the support inbox this morning, and they asked if I had a video or could teach a video on the Imagine Dragons song "Believer," and I was like, I don't have. If I did that, it would be 3 months before it was finished and ready to go. So I was like, you know what? Just tune into the live broadcast today, and I'll teach you an easy version of that. It's a really easy song, so I'll teach you the little hook part, and like if you want to play power chords with it, I'll teach you that, and then that'll give you some time to get your questions in. But I also have a jam track for you for this tune. It's just a loop of the basic groove of the song, and you can play over it. We'll play over it shortly. And then by the end of the lesson, whether you're a beginner, you'll be able to play over it with just some simple stuff, or we'll go over some improvisation ideas if you're like an intermediate player. So.
One of my personal favorite things to do is to find like a song that I actually like and improvise over it.
Yeah.
So something like this is really nice. So it's a nice change of pace from like a traditional blues jam track or something.
Yeah, and this one forces you to think because if like it's technically in like B flat harmonic minor, but like you can get away with just a regular B flat natural minor scale. But when the F chord comes around, you have to hit that A or you're in trouble. So we'll get into that later.
We will get into that later. Otherwise, before we do that, I'll just let you guys know. Obviously, as you all know, with questions, you just type them in below the video player. Type them in, send them off. We'll get them, and we'll answer them. So while we're doing the playing, if you guys have any questions, please send those in. Also, if you have playing updates or goals that you've set for 2019, love to hear about it. If you're working on a certain song, what we're doing today, where we're teaching this little thing, it might be something we do more often in live lessons. So if you have maybe some song suggestions, things we can teach, you can feel free to.
For sure, because I literally just put this together a couple hours ago, and I think it's going to turn out to be really fun.
Yeah.
Also, if you want to download the jam track for this, on the top right of the web page of the live page that's going right now, you'll see a little arrow. It's kind of grayed out, but it's a download arrow, and that's where you can find the track.
Right, because it's all the new site stuff.
Brand new site. It's a little bit tougher to find if you don't know where it is, but it is there. That's where all the downloadable resources will be in the future.
Very cool.
Everything.
For everything.
Top right.
That's right. Okay, without further ado, should we do it?
Sure, here you go. fade out, my fade out. I had no idea how long that jam track was. It's about 3.5 minutes long for you there. So it's a good, really good way to learn a pop tune that you can play along to on the radio that you hear all the time. And it's just a good little bit of an abnormal chord progression to play over, as in you can't just play major scale or you can't just play one minor scale if you want to get the full effect of what's going on.
Totally.
But the main riff for it, the chord progression is just B minor, F sharp major, F7, F dominant 7, or just an F major. F7 sounds better in this context, but I'll show you what the main riff of the song is. It's just swung eighth notes, over and over again. But you start off with these notes right here. So one measure of that, so slow it down if you need to, and I'm just playing alternate picking.
8 and 6.
What is that? Yes, 8 and 6. Okay. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4. And so I guess it's 2 measures, depending on how you count it. So that, and then you come down here to what would be an F sharp power chord, just for half of that. So 1 measure or 2 beats depending on how you count it, and play 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, sorry, I messed that up, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and that's just 4 and 6 with your first and third fingers on the D and G strings.
And they're kind of flipped from the first
yeah,
shape, right?
that's a really good way to think about it too, to like remember if you have your third finger on the D string and your first finger on the G string there on, what's that, 8 and 6, right?
Yep.
I'm terrible at doing that. And there's a space in between, 1 fret in between. You just flip your fingers around and go back 2 frets.
Nice.
So that's a really easy way to remember that.
Yeah.
And then for the F major chord or F7 chord, you're going to use the same shape you started with, this right here, only move it down just 1 fret. So instead of 8 and 6, you're on 5 and 7.
Nice.
So this is just the basic bare bones of how the lick is actually played. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and that's the entire thing. You can get away, I think, the whole song playing with that.
I think it's there. That's typical of pop songs, is there quite often will be some hooky, usually it's like a synth or something like that, and it'll just play the whole song. Kind of ties everything together.
But if you want to play power chords along to it, that's fine too. So you can play just a B flat, then an F sharp, and then an F. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, F sharp, 1, 2, 3, 4, F. 4. If you want to play full chords, you can do B minor, then F sharp major, then F7. You can do this B flat minor, and then you can do this F sharp, and then this F. And that's it as far as the chords go. Now, for your like intermediate players who are getting to more using your chord voicings and shapes up and down the fretboard, I'm gonna kind of break apart where this riff comes from as far as the shapes. So you started out like this. It's a B flat minor chord, and it's coming from this E minor bar chord shape. You're just playing the root and the the third. So it's really good to be able to visualize that kind of stuff. When you're learning parts like this, because a lot of times if your ear training's good, you can hear what chords going on if you know what key the song is. You can learn the exact riff without ever touching a guitar, which is really great. And the next chord that comes from is just this F power chord. And that comes from this D shape. So you're just playing the root and the fifth. And then this guy, even though it's the same shape we started with, it kind of functions differently because you're playing over an F major chord. And this is the F major shape it comes from. It comes from a C shaped chord. That's an F, just this. But you're just playing the third and the fifth. So the root and the third become the fifth, the third and the fifth. And if you want to play those chords to kind of solidify where this is coming from, play B flat minor, F sharp major, F major. And that'll give you a really good exercise, and this is a good exercise to do with any song, of where all these chords are actually coming from. And then that helps open up the door to improvising over stuff too. So what we can do is outline the triads to start with. That's like 20 minutes before this lesson, that's what I ended up doing. I ended up going, okay, B flat minor. More bluesy, and then you went to an F sharp.
4th chord, yeah.
And then I was thinking F7.
Okay.
Or I would just think B minor, B flat minor, with an A in it.
That's how I think about it, yeah.
So
yours is more of a complete way of looking at it, I would say, because I use that, like when I think about it, I just add the A, but it doesn't really like give you the full understanding, I think, in the same way the arpeggio shape does.
So it just helps me guess less, because I'm really bad about that if I left to my own devices. So
Right.
you can either have that A in there, or if you're playing over the other 2 chords, you can choose what you want. You could have the A flat, or
Right.
yeah. But you don't want to hit an A flat over.
It's gonna have like that that kind of an interval, like the Jaws interval.
Yeah. And another little good thing if you want to improvise is to just take the first 6 notes of like the minor scale and then insert the A, then move up to that octave, that B flat again, and play that same shape. A, do the same thing again, B flat. And then just adjust that A whenever that F dominant 7 chord comes around the 3rd chord. So that'll give you a lot of really fun stuff to work on this. And I forget the name of the student who asked me in the support inbox. But there you go, that's how you play. That's a simple way to play Believer by Imagine Dragons.
Very nice. Like I said, we'd like to do more of these. Now, I don't see any questions in the inbox yet.
Okay.
So send your questions in, please. Otherwise, we'll just go. I would like to see, I know you guys, I can see you guys there. I want to at least know what your goals are for 2019 for guitar. If not that, then what currently are you working on? I'd like to know what you're working on at least. I think that would be good.
I'm trying, like the last 3 weeks have been crazy because getting the acoustic guitar made easy out. I've been working a lot.
Yes.
And I've been like intentionally not practicing as much because some things just have to take precedence over other things. That and family lives in town, but like this track is a really good example of like one of my goals for 2019 is that's to cut out a lot of technical practice.
Okay.
And start doing a lot more improvisational practice. So just putting, like with Band in a Box, I'll put this on and start with just a B flat minor. And then when I was uncomfortable around that, going around the fretboard for like 10 minutes, then I would throw in the F sharp major chord, and then switch just back between the 2 chords, and then finally stack the 3rd one in there to where I can do it without hitting the wrong notes and be really intentional about it. So I want to improvise more. That was kind of a halfway goal last year, but this year I think it's my primary.
So focusing on being more musical, kind of in general?
Being more musical and like playing over chord changes more intentionally. Yeah.
It's funny because my guitar-related goals are almost the opposite, which is funny. I think I spent most of my time playing the guitar, noodling and trying to be musical, and I think I've neglected a lot of like the physical parts of it. And I don't care too much about getting faster, but I do think like my technique maybe is a little lazy sometimes.
Just facility.
Yeah, and I want to feel. Sometimes I feel a little bit stuck in a rut with my go-to licks. I think I find that a lot, and I think now this is the case for a lot of guitar players. When you learn a scale, then you create a riff out of the scale, and your go-to will be something that's scale-like. So it'll be like 3 notes in a row and then back down them. It'll be almost like sequencing or something like that's kind of people's go-to. Yeah. I found since I've not done that in so long, my licks aren't scaly necessarily, but I end up stuck on stuff that like it's like the same thing, like where I feel like I'm like so stuck in the muscle memory of the same licks over and over. So I feel like if I break it back down to scales, which will feel weird for me, then maybe I can find like an in-between again. That's kind of my hope. So we'll see. So I want to spend time like playing a metronome. I want to spend time like, one of the things, we talk about this all the time, but like the difference in the way that you and I both approach things, I want to try maybe some alternative approaches.
We're switching sides.
I know, it's weird. I don't want to go too crazy because I don't have like the mental capacity at this time to be able to like break down every key, every chord, learn every single note of every, you know what I mean?
That's a lot of work, man.
Yeah. I can tell from you doing it, like it's a lot of work. And so I think I want to head that direction, but I'm gonna just bite off just a little bit at a time and just kind of see where it goes. That's my plan with this. Still no questions.
See, I feel like I've gotten. Okay, how often am I going to use that kind of facility in playing the music that I play?
Right.
Like what I just played. If I maintain that like once or twice a week, then I think just putting chords on, especially chords I'm not familiar with, chord changes, I'm like, two chords have nothing to do with each other in a key, right? It's going to force me to think fast and be like, oh crap, where is B flat diminished?
Yeah.
Where is it? We're all on the fretboard, right?
Okay. I see what you're saying.
So that's kind of where I'm at. That actually, if I can find it, I have my new practice routine written down. Here it is. Awesome. So, like one way to do what you're talking about as far as memorizing keys is I've been really good about this so far for like the past 3 weeks is picking one key per week and not one key per day, so just one key per week and doing like just 5 minutes of like a chord scale or like intentionally mentally going through the notes in that key. And when I do it that way, it's not as overwhelming. It's going to take longer to get good at all of them, but that's okay. And then I have like my technique day, which I round out with some straight blues improvisation, just blues.
Nice.
And then so a little bit of ear training, like 5 minutes of ear training. Then I have the more improvisation-based thing where I work on triads, chord progressions in a key, improvising over chord progressions that I'm not good at, and then still working on 3-note per string scales. I feel like I could still be much better at that, so that's kind of staying. And then what I need to do is prune things down a little bit because I have a C day as well, which I think is too much. But has a lot of, that includes some fingerstyle stuff, working on original music, and then this jazz book that I have. I'm not going to go into like hardcore jazz, but it has a lot of things in there that I need to work on. Yeah. Just like really fundamental core things. So I need to pare it down a little bit because I don't have time for all that. I'm always drawn or divided between improvising on electric, like in a rock fusion context, and then fingerstyle. Right. And it's tough if you take a month off fingerstyle, you just took like, you just lost 3 months of your practice, it feels like. So.
Now, it looks like the question inbox is not working properly. Everyone's saying in chat that it's not working.
That's entirely possible because of the update on the site.
Totally. Right? There's bugs we don't even know exist. So I'm going to take everything out of chat. There's a lot of stuff in here I can see. So sorry I missed that. I was looking at the question inbox. I'm going to move my guitar.
What is there?
I'll just put it behind me. Sure. That's okay. And I'll sit up like this.
What's gonna say? Oh, just let your questions fly in the chat. That's fine. If you submitted it already in the question inbox, just submit it again in the chat. Sorry about that.
So, I'm gonna scroll all the way up. Lots of people saying hi. I just don't want to miss anything. Okay, first one here. This is from David Leader. I guess Andrew made a New Year's resolution to wear pants without holes.
We knew someone would notice.
Knew somebody would
If I would have put money on it, I would bet it was David.
You guys finally got to me. I felt so embarrassed. No, I'm just kidding.
That's not true.
No, I just decided to buy new pants. I need new black jeans, and you know what? It's a new year. It's a new me.
I need new black jeans too. Mine are pretty gray.
Yeah, they wash out after a while.
I'm kidding. No, these are actually great.
Nate's been washing just with bleach.
Just bleach, drying for 3 hours each time.
And then Steve said the same thing. I think no one gave them to me. I went out and bought these on my own accord. I made big boy decisions this year, okay? I'm growing up. I'm even growing a little facial hair. Do you see it, Nate? A little stubble there, just a little bit. Okay. Let's see, Daphne says, I found out that one of my guitar books has instructions for the opening riff from the Aerosmith song Walk This Way, and I'm excited to learn it. Very cool. Very, like, anytime you can learn a riff that is fun. The thing I love, when I was learning, I loved learning just like the cool parts of songs, not like the whole song. You know what I mean? I did that a lot. It's a little bit ADHD, like kind of just like bad attention.
Well, if you learn what's interesting to you, you know?
Exactly. Mike Murphy says his #1 goal is to finish getting down Tornado of Souls.
That's Megadeth, right?
Don't ask me. I don't know
I thought it
metal
was
stuff
Megadeth,
very
I'm
well.
pretty sure. I could be wrong.
That's an awesome goal. Songs like that.
I'm gonna
awesome
look it up
goal.
because it's annoying me.
Yeah. If I were to guess, I would guess Jason Becker, but I assume it's not.
Megadeth.
Okay, it's Megadeth. Okay, yeah, you're right.
Prove my fan worthiness. I have every Megadeth album, and I have the biographies too. So.
Oh, do you?
Yep.
Wow.
It's quite interesting. Mustaine, I think it's called. It is intense.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, next one here from Daphne. I also have realized I need to learn some new stuff to combat boredom. I'm not sure what that is yet. Very normal thing when you're learning guitar. Probably at every stage. There's like some boredom involved. You got to push through, right?
Yeah, and I think a lot of that comes from, and this is going to sound like a broken record, but not updating your goals regularly enough, or not pushing hard enough toward the goals that you made to where you reach them, to where you can set new ones.
Yeah.
So.
Then Daphne goes on to say, my goals are to learn songs that use the chords I already know, learn new strumming patterns, and start learning some scales.
That's awesome. My wife will not work on anything on guitar unless she's working on it for a song.
Makes sense?
And then she films a YouTube video or writes a tune, and she has it, right?
It's, completely understandable way of doing it. Then at least you know you're spending the time on the right things.
Yep.
Right?
Exactly.
Totally makes sense. Okay, next one here from Stephen Arnott. I don't understand why people who aren't in cover bands want to learn to play songs by other people. Why don't you want to create and play your own songs?
Everybody's different, man. Some people, occasionally, this is me too, I just like learning a tune because I like the song.
Yeah.
You know, oftentimes, and if I'm not feeling very creative, but I just want to learn something that's cool, a lot of times that has something to do with it. Because, I write songs, but it doesn't happen very often. I don't get inspired. Sure. Or I, just don't feel like it all the time. Sometimes I just feel like either improvising or learning a fingerstyle arrangement tune, especially lately, like with taking a Beatles tune and just making it into a fingerstyle song.
Which is kind of a mixture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it just depends on the person.
Yeah, I think I'm probably in your camp a little bit. I spend most of my time just writing songs, with my band and for myself and stuff like that. But I kind of realized that when I sit down with a guitar, with family around or whatever, they don't really want to hear me play stuff they don't know. They want to hear stuff that they know, right?
Play
so
Freebird.
I can understand. Yeah. Well, literally. That's like a fair point. I think a lot of people that want to listen, they want to hear songs that
they know. And some people's musical goals on guitar are to be able to play, 20 songs that they love that they can share with their family and friends and just sit around and sing,
Totally.
And for them to be able to do that, they have to be songs that people know.
Yeah. So I think, like I said, I'm kind of on your side, but I kind of can empathize with the other side a little bit too. S. Resler, I wonder if there will be adding tab here. There used to be one. Download tab. Okay, so there's no. Let's see. Where's the download button?
It's top right. It's hard to see. It's kind of grayed out. We should probably get that fixed and make it a little more obvious. Right there.
Yeah. So the color. It looks like on the screen. If you look above the chat box on your screen and you look and you squint really hard and you look at the top right of it, you can see a little download button. We need to get that color changed.
Yeah,
That's
we'll get
obviously
green
a problem.
or white or something.
We'll get it so it's obvious. Now, there's no tab for this, but there is the jam track. So if you click on that, like I said, above the chat box on your screen, whichever you're using, you can just click on that and download it. For tabs for this, you came up with it so quickly.
Yeah.
Right? It's kind of part of. If we want to do a bigger song tutorial, it's going to take a lot more time. At that point, we'll probably do it maybe in a YouTube video.
Yeah, full tab, full band, jam tracks, things like that. But for today, and for live stuff in general, just learning to lick. And you can come watch this afterwards too in the archives if you really need to see where to put your fingers and stuff again.
Definitely. Next one here, this is from Tom's Vet. He said, I sent you a question a few minutes ago. You might just have to retype in a chat. I may have not gotten to it yet. There's a lot I have to get through here, so you might have already sent it in. But I don't want to miss anything as I'm reading down.
Cool.
Next one from Mike Murphy. Nate, I asked you last night on Instagram about sweep picking and timing.
Oh, okay,
you gave
that
a
was you.
tip for keeping it musical, but what about shredding, keeping it up with the beats in the middle of the shapes, etc.?
Okay, like if you're just doing, I thought about that last night when I went home actually. I was like, oh, maybe that's not what he meant. Let me get, sorry, this room is so noisy for. If you're doing just practice like that, it doesn't matter where the beat falls. As long as you stay on time with the metronome. Do I have my phone? Yes, I do. Awesome. So let's put a metronome on. And doing it like this is just to get the technical facility built up to be able to do stuff like this. And I don't practice this stuff a lot, so don't roast me in the chat or whatever. Doesn't matter where the beat turns around, as long as I stay in time, right? Now, okay, let me start over on the beat. 2, 3, 4. Okay, so if I had to do that 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Getting used to not having to complete the whole shape is a big thing. So if you're for that shape, for example, all I was doing is moving it down by a half step every time. And I have to add an extra note in there to turn it around if I want to stay in like on the 1 with the beginning and ending of the shape. And every time you change shapes like that, you have to build a facility to not have to be able to complete the shape each time. So you don't have to go back down to the root notes every time. You don't even have to start at the root note. You might want to stop there. But just pick 2 arpeggio shapes that you're familiar with. Okay, that's an even kind of note grouping. So is that. And then you can start on this. And just doing that will get you out of the box of having to just run up and down each shape.
Yeah.
And then you can even get to where you can start in the middle of the shape if you want. But I hope that answers your question. That's like a really progressive way to kind of do that in order to get the technique and ability to play the arpeggio down and then start breaking yourself away from being tied to 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, or to the shape.
Right.
Cool.
That makes sense. Very cool. Next one here from Matthew Miller. I sent a question earlier about GTME through the Ask a Question box. I just don't think it's working right now. We'll get it sorted out. I know the focus now is on AGME, but will GTME open later this year?
That's an Andrew question. I don't even know.
I mean, obviously you probably know the amount of work it takes from Nate to do one of these courses is like crazy, right? Because the amount of people that go through the course and then the amount of time that Nate has to spend like with all those people, it's really hard to run more than one at a time. And because they're 26 weeks long, it's like basically 6 months.
Yep.
It's just not feasible for us to like run multiple courses at the same time. So what that kind of means is that maybe in the summer we'll do another one. Mm-hmm. Who knows? Like once AGME is done. If not, because we might not, we may not have GTME as a course. Again, it might be now as like more of a pack format, which we've done, which is basically instead of Nate going through it week by week, you can still get all the lessons and all the resources and all that But you would just get it all at once instead of going through the week-by-week class. It's obviously not as good of an experience.
You have to be a little more disciplined about it.
You do. You kind of have to set your own schedule, but you still get all the content. Obviously, it's not the same price. Like, they're very different because it requires very different amounts of Nate's time. So we don't know yet, but
we'll see how busy I am once Acoustic Guitar Made Easy gets fully underway.
Yeah.
Like around the first week of this coming month.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. It totally just depends on that. I know. I think I remember talking to you, Matthew, a while back about GTME, and you said you were possibly waiting for the next go. So it's really hard to say. Like I said, it's Nate and I. I can't really do it. It's Nate that has to kind of do that teaching because he wrote the course, and we just don't have the manpower, unfortunately. Maybe someday to be able to do more than one. Julian Butler says, you asked a question and it didn't send through, so no problem. Hopefully he posted it later. Yeah. Marv says, hi everyone, running late today. For first half of 2019, I'm working through GTME and chord and dexterity exercises.
Awesome, cool.
Great
so
course.
he's running to it on his own.
It would be on his own, yeah, because I think we're in the last week of the July semester.
And if you're a member, you can email me anytime. Just Nathan at Guitareo.
Totally. Yeah, if you
have a question or a comment or something with any course or any series you're going through, doesn't matter.
Yeah, Nathan at Guitareo.com. Yeah. Let's see. I just asked them if they got my message. Yeah, still not getting those ones. So Julian and Tom's Vet inbox isn't working. You might have already commented below. Like I said, there's a lot of comments, so we'll go through these quick. David said, I sent a question a couple times. Mike says, not getting it. Steve says, too bad Andrew isn't checking the live feed.
Too bad what?
I am now. So what happened was when I would go back over with the new setup, normally it auto scrolls down, but it didn't auto scroll down. It just stayed scrolled up at the top. So when I would quickly look over to see if there was anything in chat, I didn't see it. So I'm here now, I promise. Julian's asking for an easy version of Canon in D.
Which one is that? I forget.
It's a very famous guitar one, and I cannot think of it off the top of my head.
I'll pull it up.
Okay. But that, we can possibly do that one in a future live lesson. That would be good.
That would be fun.
While you look that up, I will just keep going through this because, like I said, there's lots. Alex says, I recently got a distortion pedal, and I've been loving it. Oh, yeah. My goal for 2019 is to get better at lead guitar. Do you know if there are any free audio recording programs for Windows? I don't really care for the quality for the time being, just something to show to friends. Oh, free stuff.
Can you do iTunes on Windows? I'm sorry, GarageBand.
I don't think so.
You can't? Huh.
You would have to use like a Hackintosh.
I'm sure there is. Like Cubase has got to have a free, like Cubase? A light version.
Audacity?
Yeah.
Reaper is, if not, I think they have a free version, but if not, it's very cheap.
Yeah, there's lots.
Studio One has a very cheap version.
And if you, I don't know if you have an audio interface already, but if you don't and you're planning on buying one, most of them come with free software.
They do. Yeah. So. At least base versions of stuff, which you'll likely need to record anyway, unless you're going to use like a USB mic. Do you want to listen there, Nate?
I'm dying.
That's the one. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Like that's the sweeping question the other day. That's the one suggestion I had for. Just going through that progression. And see, you can't finish the shape that way. I don't know the actual chord progression, but. So that's something it's short, so it forces you to switch arpeggios right in the middle of your sweeping. So.
Okay, we've almost caught up to where we realized that we had to use chat. Okay, we've almost caught up. Tom's Vet says, I had asked that last night I was on YouTube and there was a Q&A session with Nate live. Was that random?
That was kind of random. I've been doing just guitar hangouts and Q&A sessions on Facebook and Instagram. And I was like, I wonder if people would like it on YouTube as well.
Yeah.
So I might be doing some more of those. Hopefully, if I can get the tech side of it worked out, where I'm doing it all at once, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. I have the chats up for all of them, so I only have to do one, because last night at the end of that, my voice was almost gone. Because I was, I was talking just constantly for like an hour and a half.
Wow. Let's see. David says, my plan of attack this year is repeating GTME. So he's on week 2 right now.
I sent I can't remember if I sent him an email, if it was in the forum. I'm really curious to see like what his impression and his takeaways are the second time through as opposed to the first time through.
Yeah.
Because I've been keeping up with his playing pretty well as far as videos he sent in and things like that for the past year-ish.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's one of the awesome things about GTME is the fact that it's like all skill levels, so you can go back through it and then do the intermediate and go back through it, do the advanced.
Yeah.
So great for that. Feel free to not answer this question, Nate. It's a little personal, but we're going to ask it anyway. Put you on the spot.
You might not want to know the answer.
Nate, now that you are a married man, any new band members to the family soon?
Not yet, but the time is drawing near where we'll be open to new band member auditions.
Auditions? We'll leave it at that. Julian says, I'm having a little trouble with the new G major fingering with the pinky on the high E string.
Yep, most people do. Like, I was lucky because I learned it, at least I think I was lucky. My dad taught it to me that way because he's a bluegrass nut. And bluegrass guys usually play it that way. The best advice is to just treat it like you very first started playing guitar again, and treat it like you're learning open chords for the first time. And that means it's going to be really tough, but just push through it, just like you did when you're first learning your C and D chords, E minor. Same tips apply. Get the guitar up a little bit higher if you can. Make sure to come down. See how my pinky is just coming right down on the very tip. You don't have to do it that way. I'm sure I don't always, but it just helps ensure that you're not going to mute that B string. If you do that, you run the risk. And this culprit right here, this third finger, if you have your wrist sticking out and your elbow sticking out here, it's going to mute. If you come in like this, it's going to be a lot easier. So get your elbow in right behind the frets, very tall on your finger. And just do it over and over again. Take 5 minutes at the beginning of each practice session and just work on getting that on its own. And then if you're still to the point where you're putting one finger on at a time, start with your third finger, put the shape on, and then the next time start with your pinky and kind of cross-train and put the shape on. Take it off and leave it on there for a good 20 seconds. Try to practice multiple times a day, pinky first. And eventually, after like a week of this, maybe 2 weeks, you'll get to where like, oh, look at that. Mm-hmm. It's doable. Yeah.
Even I don't use that shape, and I would have to do the same thing to get that shape going, because it is like, it's just not in the muscle memory.
No, like my pinky is like very distinct on the way it kind of sits on that. It's like a specific feeling, but
yeah.
To play bluegrass like that at really fast tempos between G and a C,
necessary.
You have to.
Necessary.
But if you're not playing that kind of music, you don't necessarily need to. You can use 1, 2, and 3. It's up to you.
Very cool. We are coming to the end here. I've got a bunch of recommendations for free stuff. It looks like Reaper is free and Pro Tools has a free version as well. So I would say Reaper or Pro Tools, check those out if you don't go out and buy an interface or anything like that. That would be great, because you don't need much more than the free bass version until you're recording like big multiple track stuff. And then the last one here, this is from James. This year I will be getting the major and minor scales down. I have the pentatonic in both so far.
Awesome.
Nice. Major and minor scales. That's the way I always think about those is get the pentatonic versions down, and then you just fill in the gaps.
Yeah.
That's all you got to do. It's very simple.
Sweet.
And that is, I got one more in here. This is from Daphne. I noticed that I noticed that the scales lesson planned start with pentatonic scales. Are those the scales most people learn first instead of major scales?
Yeah, I think there's a couple reasons for that. Number one, I think a little bit easier to play.
For sure.
There's only two notes on each string. And play just like an A7. They're really easy to make sound good right away, just picking like a random notes.
Yeah, big
that's
time.
another reason. Now play A minor. Cool. That's the same scale. It works over a 7 chord, a power chord, a minor chord. So that's one of the reasons why I like starting people out with pentatonics, just because it gives them a good idea of what it's like to actually play some music. If you have a major scale, play the A major. That sounds like an exercise more than this. Right? Sounds more scalar, sounds like an exercise. It's a little bit tougher to use. You have to know more about note choice and music theory in order to make it sound melodic.
Also, as you're building up speed, there's like 3 and 2 notes on different strings, right?
Yeah, it can be weird, like 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2.
Unless you're doing the whole 3 note per string shape, which is pretty challenging, right? For a lot of new players, yeah.
And that's even harder to know how to use, I think.
Oh, big
like
time.
That first major scale shape that it went over. So
big time, big time. So that totally makes sense.
One thing I would encourage you to do, like it's mentioned in the series, but make sure that you pay attention to what chord shape goes with your, like that E minor chord shape goes with the minor pentatonic. Mm-hmm. So you'll be learning the arpeggio at the same time. So that's the important note. Mm-hmm. So just try to learn that at the same time in conjunction, really commit it to memory, even if you have to intentionally sit down like the first 5 minutes of every practice and just think, okay, root, third, fifth, root, third, fifth, root, third. It's kind of boring, but it helps a lot in the long run. So
yeah, very cool. Another thing, I keep saying one last one.
Keep doing it.
This will be the last one because we've gone on for too long.
Go on.
This one's from Julian. Can you do Amazing Grace, like beginner acoustic version of Amazing Grace?
I can do that right now. You know what? I wonder if that is in my... I played a really cool arrangement of it, but the chords were really wonky, so I won't do that one. What? 1, 2, 3. All it did was play a G chord, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then switch to a C. So it's in 3/4. So you get count to 3 every time I say measure. So 1, 2, 3, measure of G. Another measure of G, 1, 2, 3. Move to a C chord, play measure of C, 1, 2, 3. Measure of G, 1, 2, 3. Another measure of G, 1, 2, 3, another measure of G, then a D, 1, 2, 3, another measure of D, 1, 2, 3, G, 2, 3, another measure of G, C, 1, 2, 3, and this is a basic version of it, right? G, another measure of G, a measure of D7 or D, and back to G to finish, another measure of G. That's it.
Very nice. Julian says, can you make a lesson of that? What I would suggest is, if I'm sure at some point we'll do a lesson on a simple version of that, but this will be archived. So what you can do is you can actually go back to this and you can jump to this part and you can watch this as many times as you need to. Nate explaining it.
What'll probably happen is I'll end up doing like I did with Hallelujah. I just finished like learning and writing a fingerstyle version of Hallelujah, but I'm gonna do a course on it that does a beginner version that's just like basic chords. Then I'll do an intermediate or like a beginner fingerstyle version. And I'll do a full intermediate style fingerstyle version where it has the melody on top and bass on the bottom, right?
Yeah.
So I'll probably end up doing the same thing with Amazing Grace because that's a really good tune to learn, just strumming and then fingerstyle as well.
Yeah, it's a classic. Everybody knows this song.
And you need to know the song. Like I played it for a wedding 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
So.
it's honestly so ingrained in my head. I've never I didn't know that. I just did it from being able to know the melody in my head and play it. Yeah. So it's one of those songs that everybody knows. Okay, Mike Murphy wants to know tips on 3-note per strings, but played it in 8th notes instead of triplets.
Oh, okay, this is something that you just have to set the metronome really slow and just, here, actually, I'm gonna do it. And count out loud, it'll help you a lot. Because, let's see, 1, 2, and 3, let's go. That's way too fast. Let's do 90, just because it's nice. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now it's weird when you first start doing that because you're playing 3 notes per string, so you're automatically going to want to group things in 3. But when you do this, you're going to have 1 and 2, and then switch strings and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So initially, you're probably going to want to do this. Triplets, right? But it's important to be able to not have such a heavy triplet feel to a 3-note per string scale. That way it doesn't sound like you're just. So the first way to do that is, first of all, count loud. 1 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. So I'm establishing a really heavy 8th note feel. Yeah. And then try to ignore your best to ignore the fact that you're playing 3 notes per string. Just think of it as a run or a lick. So 1 and 2 and 3. And you can even accent the numbers. That'll help kind of keep your brain focused on 2s, groups of 2s instead of 3s. So if you accent the thirds, or every third note, it gets a little bit weird.
Yeah.
So. A lot of it is just mental, getting used to not playing triplets on 3-note per string scales and getting used to playing 8th notes or 16th notes.
Yeah.
And it gets even weirder when you start to play. Let's say you're playing triplets, but you're playing sequences of 4, like triplet, triplets like that, but you're playing triplets, but you're playing them in groups of 4. It gets really weird. So that's another good thing to kind of push yourself after once you get the 8th note thing down.
Yeah.
Cool.
Very nice. We've caught up. That was awesome, guys. Thank you for all the questions. It's fun when we have so many questions like that. So next time we do one of these, hopefully you guys come with a bunch of questions again. Again, we'll try and get the question send-off fixed. If we don't, we'll just do the same thing in chat. It totally works.
I'm sure the dev guys upstairs will be like, oh, it's just this.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll be able to finish it off pretty quick. So, do you want to play anything out? Do you want to?
Sure. I don't know what though. I'm actually playing through an amp today, in case you didn't notice, in case you care.
Okay, I'm gonna play some stuff in B minor, D major. You want to just play along?
Sure.
See what happens.